building a customer avatar. That's what we're going to be talking about today, and the importance of a customer avatar.
Very, very important step to any process. I feel like this is one of those things where it's like, if you skip this step,
it will make everything that comes afterwards so much harder and can cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we've seen a few brands that have tried to launch paid advertising or things like this, not having really thought about this step. And so just to take a step back, like, what is a customer avatar? So a customer avatar is a dream representation of your perfect client. So this goes through things like, you can name them and say like, oh, our dream customer is Tom. Tom is between the ages of 28 to 35. He goes to school, he does this or whatever it is that that person does, or their psychographics. So where do they live? What's their income? All this kind of stuff. And then also like, what are they interested in? So say if you're a fitness company and you're looking to target people for fitness things, it's like, okay, what kind of fitness levels are they currently? Are they hardcore, like have they been doing marathons already, or are they just starting out the journey? Are they a lifter, or are they into cardio? Are they into both? Are they hybrid? So these are the kind of questions that you'll be starting to list out in your avatar as you go through. And I think it's also important in there to like include things around what they don't do. But once you have a bit of that idea of who that person is that you're actually selling your product or service to, then you can use that to start informing the decisions you make with your marketing, as well as the way that you provide your service actually as well.
I think it's super important as well to note that the more granular you can get with this person, like the more specific you can get, the easier it is.
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, let's just say, keep using fitness as an example. If you're like, they're into lifting, it's like, okay, lifting as a whole is still quite a broad exercise, right?
100%.
So it's like, maybe it's like they're very much into, I don't know.
Do they want to be power lifters, or do they just want to be a little bit stronger?
But it might be like, our dream customer is like, let's just say like bench is their absolute number one. Mm-hmm. If you know that granular of detail about them, it's like when you're making content or you're producing adverts and stuff, you can literally know that if you're like, you know, this will make your bench, you know, 2 times better or something. It's like you can speak directly to 100%. Them because you know exactly what they're going for. And as well, like staying in the fitness space is like, you talk about it all the time. It's like Garmin, Strava, like what are the apps that they use that are specific to the thing that they're going to do? It just allows you to dive deeper into their mind and the things that they're already looking for online. Old saying of like, you know, if you can articulate someone's problem to them better than they can articulate it yourself, they automatically assume you have a solution.
100%.
Right? So if you don't know who you're talking to, it's very hard to articulate the problem to them.
So part of that, like just expanding upon that, is to kind of establish like what an avatar is, and like even for people that have maybe never even thought about this, where would you keep this kind of thing? Like you're thinking like a notepad or in some kind of digital format that it's just written out. It's not any kind of like 3D rendered thing. It's just a list of all these characteristics. But what does it allow you to do aside from just knowing a little bit more about your customer? What do you do with this avatar? So knowing once you've got your avatar, the things that you can start filtering through the lens is, one, your advertising. So what kind of ads are you running to attract that person to your service? That's a big one. It's an easy one for us because that's what we do. Content, what kind of content are you making that's going to appeal to that person? What things do they not like? So it's going down into like what the actual avatar do, but what other things you can do with it. For us personally, I also run new products and services through that dream avatar to make sure that we're not starting to diverge into new markets, which people might be looking to do. But generally for us, we want to keep within the same lane, as well as when I'm thinking about how we're going to deliver our product or our service to people, like how we're going to communicate with them, what channels we're going to communicate with them on, filter everything through that customer avatar so that I know, does that customer avatar like to be even spoken to on those channels or things like that? And if they don't, I can save myself some work and not bother going down that little rabbit hole. So it's a really good little sense check for things on what things you do want to do, what things you don't want to do, and how you can speak to them. And why it's important. Like, so we'll stick for the rest of this particular episode, we'll stick only to marketing because that's what we're doing. the reason why speaking to people really specifically is important is it allows you to stand out from your competitors. So you mentioned before, like whether they use Garmin, what technology they use and things like that. If you know these kind of things, you can start building creative. So your ads and things like that around those things that you know your audience does, because there's a lot of businesses out there that go very general and generic with stuff. And so by dialing in a little bit further, you can immediately skip the queue basically and get past those generic ads and get your own ads in front of people, which saves you a lot of money.
It's a good hack as well because, say for example, let's say keep on the fitness niche. Say if it's like they're into fitness and for some reason they're into golf or something, right? Mm-hmm. It's like
we're into golf.
If you know that that's the person you're trying to target, it's like if other people are trying to target that same person, the angle that you can come from might be like the golf angle that people might not be thinking of. So it might be like you could do collaboration with golf brands, for example, or like, golf courses or something like that. This is just a different way of being able to find that customer and hit them in a certain way, aside from the traditional things like Google, Facebook, that sort of stuff.
100%. So now that you know that, now that people know what a target avatar is.
Before we go further, if I was a business owner and I was like, I don't know who my customer avatar is, cool. Like what would be the easiest way to get that information if you've already got customers?
Cool. So if you're an established business, depending on your level of technology, you can just go and have a look at who your biggest market is or your most profitable market, depending on what that is. The next thing you could do is then what we did was I just highlighted my favorite customer to work with. And I was like, I really like working with them, as well as the fact they got the best results from our service. So we're like, okay, they got the best results and I love working with them. I want more people like that. And so I literally just wrote down that customer. So for us, that customer was Sarah. And so our avatar is called Sarah. And I've literally just... so creative. Yeah. And I've literally just written down all of her stuff. So I've written her age, I've written what she does, all of that kind of stuff. And I've used that to fill one of her avatars. We are now making a second avatar because that was a female avatar and they have different things that are driving them. And we're building out a male avatar. And then we'll find the overlaps between those two, which then create potentially a third avatar, which is a melding of the both. But yeah, if you don't know who your dream customer is, I'd be concerned. But also, you can go and have a look at like who's your favorite person that you currently work with and gets the best results from your product or service, and then just write them down. It's even something else that can be really good is if you yourself are someone who would benefit from your own product or service.
Or potentially if you were someone.
Or if you were someone, probably even better, if you were someone who could benefit from your product or service, you can literally just write about yourself as you were. Like I know in the coaching space, that's a really big one, is you just go, okay, who was I 10 years ago or 5 years ago? And then you just make all your content or your advertising and everything to that person that you were 5 years ago, which is an easy one.
Yeah. Okay, so now... let's say everyone kind of understands roughly who they are. Mm-hmm. What is like some general questions or things that people should go through when they're filling out their dream customer avatar, ICP,
whatever? So a really good place to start with this kind of thing is one, I like to give them a name because then it's a person and it makes it easier when you're making content and things like that to be like, I'm speaking to Sarah. So you start with the name and then I go through the psychographics. So that's like, how old are they? What's their... That's not the psychographics. I go through all their physical characteristics, like how old are they, where are they located, how much money are they making, all that kind of stuff. I go through those first. And then I start going through the next step, which is who are they before they engage my product or service? Mm-hmm. So what that means is, say, for example, we'll keep going to fitness. So let's say that we're into lifting. Who they are before they start the journey with our fitness regime or whatever it is they are someone who can't lift as much as they like. Maybe they don't like the way they look. Maybe they can't play with their kids as much as they want to. writing down all those things that they are currently, or the things that they think about themselves currently. And then I'll write down the things that they wish they were as well. So, which seems like it should come later on, but I do all the things that they wish they were currently. And then I'll change gears and go to who are they after they've had the product or the service. And then I'll start listing down, okay, Sarah has been doing fitness, for example, and now she could only lift 10 kilos, but after my program, she can lift 40 kilos. So, okay, cool, she can lift 40 kilos. She now thinks positively about herself. She can spend 30 minutes swinging her kids around every day, all those kind of things, as well as what she thinks about the future now as well, because that will shift as they go through the service. And the reason why I do those two in that order is because this gap in between of who they are currently to who they want to be after engaging with the service, or who they will become, is where you want to start messaging all your marketing, because that's that transformation of who someone is currently to who they want to become.
And your product is essentially the bridge.
Your product should be the bridge between that, and so you can leverage that. But when it comes to messaging, like we know a lot of away and towards messaging works really well, which is like moving them away from who they are currently and towards who they want to become. Gets great results because people are usually making purchasing decisions not off logic, but off emotion. And that emotion, generally speaking, will come from who we want to become or who we want to be perceived as afterwards. And so that's a really good thing to start with. The other things that are valuable on your avatar is what are the 3 biggest issues that they currently face as it relates to your product or service. So again, we're kind of jumping all over. I'm going to skip away from fitness and do marketing because it's easier for me to do off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. The 3 biggest problems that people might face in marketing is not knowing anything about it, like not knowing enough about it. So that's one biggest problem with marketing. The second one is having worked with other marketing agencies in the past and been burnt. And so there's very common. Won't dive into that one too much, but they've worked with people in the past and haven't received the results that they were promised. And then the third one is probably for us is not having enough time to even like think about avatars or all this kind of stuff. They're just stuck in that day to day and end up just feeling guilty. So not having time. They're the 3 biggest problems that our dream customers face before they come to us. So if you can go through that for your product or service, you'll start getting a much clearer a clearer idea of the things that they're currently struggling with and need help with.
The big follow-up question that I know that everyone's going to be asking is, so now I've made my customer avatar and I know who I'm targeting, but what if I want to target more than just that one person? Like, is that too specific? Like, if I'm just targeting one specific person, how do I reach everyone?
Creatives struggle with this the most, I think, but all business owners do because they feel like as they start targeting someone more specific, it feels like you're losing sales to all these other people. And it's not true. You're probably going to make more sales actually just targeting the front, and they're probably going to be cheaper sales for you to make. But anyway, if you want to target multiple people, like you have multiple products that service different people, you just make multiple avatars. That's what I think is the best way to go about it. So say you might have one who is at one stage of the journey or for one particular product, and then you'll make another one for another product or another stream of your revenue, and then just keep making them for each stream. So you may, like if you're a massive company, you may end up with 5 or 6 different avatars that you're targeting with different things. But when it comes to building, say, a content strategy, having more avatars is actually going to make it harder for you because then, say, for content, for example, the algorithms are trying to place your content to a person. And so if you're making content for multiple different people, like one of our clients provides services for people with spinal injuries, and that ranges everywhere from 18 through to like 65. And so it's like, oh my God, they have 4 different avatars. If we started trying to make content for each one of them, the algorithm's probably not going to know who it's for, and then just like you're fighting an uphill battle straight away. So when it comes to actually creating, say, a content strategy with multiple avatars, what you'd probably look to do is take all of your avatars and find the common threads between them. So say if age isn't a common thread, ignore the age factor and start looking for the common thread. So say, for example, with our client who works with people with spinal injuries is the...
Who would have known?
Who would have known? Spinal injuries is the common problem there. So you'd kind of go, okay, that's the starting point. What they're looking to do with their life is probably going to be something that's different between all. While all of them would want to live as fully as they can, the things that they want to do are probably different. But there are some things that everyone would want, which is community. So that's when you start going, okay, all of them want community. All of them want to live a full life, but that looks different for everyone. So it's actually quite hard to talk about it. You probably want to go for community and then things that are directly related to helping people with spinal injuries. So probably education would be the easiest route for them to go down, just teaching people exercises they can do at home for different things, like living a normal life that everyone has to do, like eating, cooking, going to the bathroom. Learning about those kind of things would be the easiest way to go for combining multiple avatars into one.
I think the other thing to keep in mind is that just because you're targeting a specific person doesn't mean that's the only specific person that's going to come through your funnel.
That's true.
It just
You will have
allows
outliers.
it just allows you to be more clearer with your messaging.
Yeah.
Apple, for example, very good like avatar. Their avatar is like the creative, person.
Yep.
But it's like you have 65-year-old grandparents that are, lining up for the Apple iPhone.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't want to service that customer. It's just that they know who they're building their product or service for, and then the overarching effect of other people doing it, or just like the brand getting big as a whole, is that other people want to become a part of that. But it just allows them to, with their messaging, all their messaging is very around like the creative aspect, because they know who they're trying to target.
100%.
And it just allows you, once you have your customer avatar, to be very clear on your messaging.
Yeah. So wrap up of that, as Andrew just said, because you get super clear on what you can do. As a result of having this, you're going to make much more informed decisions of your marketing, what you need to be talking about. It's going to allow you to create deeper messaging for your content or your marketing, which allows you to stand out more, which means cheaper leads.
It'll save you so much money because you can
so
actually
much money.
talk specifically to the person.
Like a secret hack for everyone here, not that secret. If you can bring humor into your paid ads or your content, it generally performs better than any other type of content. So you can only do that if you know who it is you're talking to. And then it's also going to help you as you're building out your product base, your service and your delivery, to know what things to do and, more importantly, what things not to do, because you can refer back to your target avatar to be like, does this person care about this thing? If not, don't do it. Does this person communicate in this way? Cool. Don't communicate in that way. Easy. That's the end.
Done.
Thank you for learning about target avatars.